Welcome to the Impact Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Pritchard. This is a podcast where we dive deep into the real, uncensored truths about addiction, recovery, and everything in between. No sugarcoating and no judgment, just honest conversations that can help lift up the solution. So let's get started. Today, I'm excited. We have Nisha Patel with you are owner of The Niche.
Yes, that's right.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
We got introduced through our mutual friend, Zach.
Yes.
And when he was talking about you, he was like, she's so great. Like, I think she would just be an amazing voice to have on our show. And so I'm so grateful that you were willing to share your time with us today.
Yes, I'm very honored to be here. And that was really kind.
Yeah. So I want to talk about today, of course, your experience because you are in recovery as well and sober, correct?
Yes. I'm almost 18 years sober.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Which is crazy because we were talking before and I was like, you look like you graduated high school in 2020. So how could you possibly have 18 years sober? Like you just,
thank you.
But that's incredible. So, so I want to talk about that. And then also, of course, like what you got or how you got into, what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And, we have a lot of, I think, family members of loved ones that listen to us and watch our show. So, I think you'll have a lot to be able to share and maybe provide some insight and hope for them or specific strategies or things they can look out for, things like that. So if that works for you.
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
So, okay. So you are originally from Macon, Georgia.
That's right.
And give us just a little bit of an idea of what your upbringing was like, family life, what you like to do. I'd like to ask this question because I think we all have different experiences and to just share on that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know. It was very interesting growing up in Macon. I think at the time I did. We were one of the first South Asian families in Macon. I went to a small private school there. And so I had the same classmates from like kindergarten to 12th grade. Everybody knew everybody. But it was, a place where there were times where I knew I was different. And not just because of my background, but just behaviors or the way my family dynamics were. And there were times where there's a lot of similarities too. And I think for me, it was really important that I found the similarities. That's where I felt most safe. And so early on, I started playing soccer. Sports was definitely a big outlet for me, I think energetically as well as a way that it's a place that I felt like I fit in.
Yeah.
And so I played competitively from the moment that I could. I played travel and then I played in high school. And my family was also very supportive of that. They owned a small business, which was very opposite from a lot of the other parents that I went to school with. So that was different. It was interesting, but never anything that kept me from making friends or, creating strong friendships and bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you remember the first time? I mean, you mentioned you felt a little different and you noticed differences. Do you remember the first time you drank or used and did that make that change a little bit?
Oh my gosh, so much so. That's such absolutely. It was in high school. It was a culture.
Yeah.
Right? We studied, played our sports or did what we were supposed to, extracurriculars, and then we partied on the weekends. And my best friend was like the host of all the parties. So I was a co-host.
Yeah.
And I do remember, I think that was when I started really connecting with my peers and feeling like, oh, I'm part of like the group now, the collective. It gave us something to bond over, right? And so, I remember it was so much fun. It was just fun. That's how I describe it. It was fun until it wasn't, which was like 8 years later or so, but it never got in the way of me showing up or doing what I needed to do.
Yeah. And I think that's important to point out because this disease of alcoholism and addiction progresses at different rates in different people. And so early on, like it is fun. I had the same experience, going out on the weekends or going to parties in high school and college and all those things. And I just had no idea that could ever even be a thing, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of times I work with young adults, right? And clients where they're like, I don't know if I have a problem. I think I want to try sobriety. But the people around them are like, hey, you really need to look at this and look at your relationship with alcohol. Because they're like, I don't drink every day and I don't have to drink. And I always tell people, I'm like, it's not about having to drink every day. It's what happens when you consume it, right? Can you stop once you start? And not one of those one-off times where you're like white knuckling it.
Right.
And like, I'm going to stick to one drink tonight and it's miserable the rest of the night.
Yes.
But truly, can you stop at one and be content?
Yeah.
Those are one of the markers I tell a lot of times people look at because it's not going to be the everyday. Do I drink more than other people? Right. Because like I used to take pride in that. Like, I'm petite, but I can drink as like much as the boys.
Right.
Well, that's a sign right there,
Yeah.
right? How you metabolize it. So I think there's these little subtle signals that we get that we may not know until we're older.
Yeah.
Or until a certain point that, we might need to be a little bit more intentional with the partying and the drinking and things of that such when it's still fun.
Yes. Yeah. And I love how you said, can you drink one and be content?
Yeah.
Because it's like sometimes we can have one or two, but am I content? Absolutely not.
Right. One's never enough.
Yeah. Okay. So you're, typical teenager.
Yeah.
Walk us through kind of after high school and college, and when did things start to get a little out of control?
Yeah. So for me, college was, again, a lot of fun. I hung out with my peers. I think our goal was just to have the most fun every day. But again, take care of our responsibilities. School also clicked for me then, finally. Like grade school was really hard for me, but in college, I got into marketing and management and it worked so well for my brain that it was natural. And I was like, oh my God, I'm finally doing well in school. I found something I was good at and probably something I was interested in. Mm-hmm. Having an ADHD brain, I think that's really important. Motivation and interest. And so I taught myself how to study. Like that's something I didn't know how to do for the longest time and how to keep my attention and memorize things. So in that sense, things were getting better, finally clicking. I'm like, yes. And then I was partying without consequences.
Yeah.
Yes. So much fun. And the people I hung out with did the same thing. So we never thought that like blacking out was abnormal, yes. Right? There was quotes like, well, if you don't remember, doesn't count. Like silly things like that. But now you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, that's the rule.
Yeah.
Like, wow. And so I never thought anything of it. Yeah, I had some rough nights where we're like, oh my God, I never want to do that again. Or those cringy warnings, right? The scaries is what my clients like to call it. They get the scaries. So we have those, but nothing where it was like, okay, this is unhealthy and I need to stop.
Right.
Now, forward 2 years after college, that's when I stopped, right? Because I did the geographical change. Well, if I move across to California, then I won't drink as much because I won't be bored and I'm going to have a job and I'm doing everything that society tells us to do. So we will feel good.
Right.
Well, I did all of that. But yeah, the drinking doesn't stop. And it just got worse to the point where I've always had a connection with God. And it was miserable. And I was like, all right, God, like, I can't do this. Like, I need help. Like, help me find a solution not to do this.
Yeah. And so when you were moving from Georgia to California, mm-hmm. The drinking was out of control at that point, but you thought it was more of like, I need a different job and this and that. And so what did that look like at that point in time? Was it just like you're talking about, like you could still somewhat hold together, but you're blacking out and having more of these cringe, scary moments.
Yeah, more scary moments for sure. Mm-hmm. And definitely managing. Like I was able to get a job at an ad agency. I was able to do life's check marks, you know? So no one really could tell that I was struggling. It was just an internal struggle, really. Mm-hmm. More so of like, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the way I behave. And then sometimes it would be when I didn't want to drink, I would have to drink, right? And that's the line. When you start crossing that line, that's when you know you might have a problem in your hands.
Yeah. And so can you share like an example of what that would, like you didn't want to drink, but you drank, or was it more like setting an intention that I'm not going to drink today and then you end up drunk?
Yeah, that's it, right? Or like, I only want to have one drink. And then 4 hours later, you've got 6.
Right.
That's it. Because I had to continue, right?
Yes.
I think the first drink is always an option. But after that, it's off. Willpower's gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. And so that's why I went out there and I was like, okay, I'm going to do all these things and that's going to make life better. And I'm not going to want to I'm not going to be bored because like drinking served as something that helped me with boredom. I'm not going to feel overwhelmed because it helped calm my brain down, right? And I'm going to learn how to have fun without it.
Yeah.
All of those things it was supposed to do. What it didn't, because really it was an issue with me internally. It wasn't my environment.
Yeah.
And so finally it came to the point where it was like, okay, enough is enough. And I had to like contact my family and go, hey, I think I have a problem. And they're like, what?
They were surprised.
So shocked.
Okay.
They were like, what are you talking about? Right? Like they knew like alcoholism runs in my family, like my dad's, but like female, like just no. They're like, okay.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. So alcoholism does run in your family.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they were just like, no. But then I'm the youngest. So, of course, everybody rallied and we're like, well, if you're serious, then you're going to come back to Georgia and like, we'll get you the help you need.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. Came back to Georgia and then I got into the program, right? And gotten 12 steps. And I will tell you, I think the hardest part wasn't the stopping. I think it actually felt like I came, like a weight was being lifted off me. I just needed breathing room from alcohol, you know? And then I was like, oh, okay, I can breathe. And then the hard work came. That's when you start doing the therapy, your childhood work and all of those things and character defects and all of those things come. And those aren't easy, but I will say it was a relief because I was now able to live in alignment. I knew I wasn't living in alignment. I was so far from who I was meant to be and my purpose for this life.
Yeah.
That even though it was difficult, it was one foot in front of the other because I knew I was going in the right direction.
Right. And so would you say because you knew family members that experienced alcoholism, did you know recovery was the route? Like, did you know there were 12-step fellowships out there that could work? What was your, I guess, idea around that? And did that change once you actually got into the program?
Yeah. So when I first was like, I need help, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I tell this story all the time. I remember calling my dad and he was like, I don't think you have a problem. I think you need to pray to God. And I was like, Dad, I prayed to God and he told me to call you. And he was just like stunned. He was like, oh my God. And you could just, feel his brain turning like, oh my gosh.
This is real.
Yeah. Like, oh no. But so I didn't know what it looked like, but I had a family, honestly, that wrapped me in so much love. And my sister knew somebody in the 12 steps and was like, why don't you meet this person? And, they kind of showed me the way. And I was at the point where I was like, you could tell me to stand upside down in the corner. And I would have done that because I was like, I'll do what it takes.
Yeah.
So as they say, I think I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way. I think back then there was also not so many options. I think now there's so many options. I'm like, I would have gotten confused, right? But it was like one way, if this is how you want to do it, this is what you do.
Right.
And I, really looked at people that had long-term sobriety and led the life that I wanted. And I emulated that. I didn't hang out with a lot of young people, actually, even though I was only 24. I didn't. I hung out with people that were older who had what I wanted.
Yeah.
And kind of rebuilt my life like that.
Yeah. That's amazing. And do you think if someone would have said, like, you're an alcoholic before you had moved to California, do you think you were in a place, like, to be ready to submit to this way of life? Or do you think it took getting out there and, getting a little bit more beat up?
Yeah, I think it took what it took, right? I always say we have to go through our processes. So could I have been, like, saved earlier, like saved some of the pain and turmoil earlier? Maybe. But also there were a lot of lessons that I learned, through doing that. And a lot of like coming to truth. I mean, you have to face big truths. And I think the point of like, I don't want to do this anymore and going, I'm willing to do whatever. Like I will follow somebody blindly, but what I know is I can't continue what I'm doing. It took that.
Yeah.
It took that.
Yeah. It's the self-imposed crisis.
Yes.
And to be awake to that. And when you're talking about this, just like you would have gone in the corner and done handstands. Like I say something similar. I'm like, if my sponsor would have told me to jump in the lake in 30-degree weather, I would have done it because I was so done.
Yes.
And I just could not live like that anymore. And quite frankly, I was like shocked that I was still living that way, you know, and
yeah.
just willing to do whatever. And I didn't care. And I think that is one of the like gifts of the gift of desperation is it's just like, I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, somebody help me. And I will do what you tell me to do.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it was. You know, I knew like in my core, like deep down in my soul that this was not it. This was not going to lead me down to the life I wanted.
Yes.
Or that I meant to live. And not even that I wanted, because I didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
I just know I wanted the pain to stop. And I also knew that I had a purpose to fulfill. And it was going to take some really big changes in order for that to happen.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that you didn't go to treatment.
Yeah.
You know, I went to treatment, but I didn't stay sober. And when I finally got sober, I didn't go to treatment. And I like to share that because everyone has their own experience. Treatment is so helpful. I mean, obviously, impact.
Yes,
like we
do
we
amazing
own
work.
we own a treatment center, but it's not a necessity. I just think it's up to that person's personal experience.
Absolutely. And I think there's in-betweens, right?
Yeah.
I always say, even though I got sober through 12 steps and working the program and all of that, my way is not everybody's way. I've maintained long-term sobriety. I tell all my clients, like, you don't have to like maintain long-term sobriety. And you also don't have to sign your life off to me going, from day one, I will not drink. Like, that's not what I'm asking of you, right? I meet you where you are. Let's see where you are.
Yeah.
I'll have places like Impact reach out to me and go, we have somebody that's potentially going to come here in 3 to 4 weeks because life happens and everybody can't get there immediately. Will you see them? Like, will you work with them for the weeks coming up too? Just helping them prep even, do preparatory work or on the back end, because it's easy to get sober in a milieu, right? We all know this. But then when real life happens, all meetings aren't equal. All therapists aren't equal. So these people are trying to navigate and continue these things that they did that was all provided in one place now with life stressors. And so that's where I come in and with my coaching of I'm going to be supportive while we're creating your network and your community for you to continue your journey and recovery.
Yeah. So yes, let's get into how you got into where you are now. So were you continuing doing marketing once you got sober in Georgia?
Yeah.
How did that look? Okay.
Yeah. So I did marketing for another, after I got sober, probably 2 or 3 years. And then I always knew that I was meant to do something different. I knew I was meant to help people. I say the story all the time. When I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a teacher. Like, I didn't play with toys. I literally would walk around with like a backpack, a pen, and a pad. And I would teach anybody. I just wanted to be a teacher. And then when I got to college, my parents were like, you can't be a teacher. And I was like, well, why not? And they're like, how are you going to live?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, kudos to all the teachers out there. Don't say that disrespectfully at all.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those, realities that they had shared. So I had to find something else to do. And then I got into this marketing job. It was supposed to be a dream marketing job. And it was everything but that. And I always say the universe backs us against the wall and makes us miserable enough to finally leap, And so I remember my husband now, but fiance back then, found me in like the closet crying. And he was like, what is going on? You're like the happiest person I know. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. This is like not the job I wanted. The guy's asking me for all these things that doesn't make sense. And he was just like, okay, like no more job searching. Go to grad school. Put your head down, get it done. And I had a therapist that was also worked like a mentor, who was a mentor of mine. He told me the same thing. He's like, you can get it done. You're right. This is what you're meant to do. And I put my head down, got it done, and I never looked back. So when I got full licensure, I was 5 years sober by then. Yeah. And then everything just slowly evolved. I never planned that we'd be sitting here. Yeah. That I would be sharing my story out loud. Because I actually only started sharing my story publicly 2 years ago. And that's when I combined my personal life and my professional life and started bringing sobriety and recovery coaching in. Yeah. Because I just felt I was called to do so and help people that are, suffering specifically with this stuff. Yes. And families behind closed doors that may not know where to turn. And that's my way of giving back now on a bigger level.
Yeah. And I mean, that was same for me as far as not really wanting to share about my personal experience. Yeah. But I actually got connected to the people that I'm connected to now because of a woman that I went to high school with who shared about her sobriety on Facebook.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And then my sister reached out to her and was like, my sister needs help. Can you help her? And then she connected me. And so it was when I was 5 years sober that I decided.
Same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like contemplated about it because it's scary to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And, but I'm like, if it helps one person, it sounds so cliche, but it is so worth it. Like,
Absolutely.
that's what it's about. And so that's cool that you have the same mindset.
It is. It's a similar story. And also it affects our family, right?
Yeah.
We don't just we're not just by ourselves. And so it was also I wanted to be respectful of that and respectful and mindful of my parents and my siblings and all of that stuff. And I think coming out with something so big, there is, because there will be judgment.
Yeah.
But one quote that came to me when I was in meditation one day was your purpose is a lot louder than the tribe you don't fit in. And so it's oh yeah, my purpose is bigger.
I love that.
Right? Because I was worried about fitting in or how I would be judged. And that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because when you lead with purpose, well, then you're surrounded by people who you fit in with.
Right.
So I think it was just a deeper level of authenticity out in the world too.
Yeah. And so you tell us a little bit about the different offerings. Obviously, the therapy and sober coaching and family coaching. And I think it's important. Maybe we'll start with the sober coaching.
Yeah.
Because that word or profession, I think, can get thrown around.
Oh, yeah.
As I'm sure you know more than me. And to just share what that is and why someone might need that versus oh, well, I could just go to a meeting and find that. What the difference is there.
Yeah. I think the difference between going into a general meeting versus having somebody specific, obviously it's catered to you and your needs, right? And for me in my practice, again, I meet clients where they are, whether they're getting curious, they want to change their relationship with alcohol, or they want to quit. That's who I'm there to support and support their family members, right? So I think a lot of times when we go in looking for help, there's a lack of acceptance, right? And I really create that acceptance and non-judgment, that environment for people to look at it and go, oh my God, I can tell her this cringy moment. And she's just kind of all right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I want people to walk away with tangible ways that they can actually try to get sober. I have a lot of people who are executives who work, who it's part of the lifestyle.
Yes.
I hate to say that, but it is.
It is.
So it's teaching them, okay, one by one, I have a PR event I have to go to. I can't not go, Nisha. But people are used to me drinking, or I'm used to drinking. It's part of my identity. Great. Well, let's pre-plan for this. How are we going to do it? Go talk to the bartender. They will make you a drink that looks like a drink the whole night. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, great. I have a one-on-one dinner and it's a big business meeting. Great. Tell them you're on antibiotics. When you can armor people with how to be sober, they get the chance to start being sober.
Yeah.
People don't know how to do those things.
Yes.
Right. And so some of those are just through my own personal experience. I mean, I had to date, get married, have children, without any substance, right? Mind altering substance.
Yeah.
And so it's while we're working on bigger picture items like core values and really creating a strong foundation in the why, I'm also providing tangible steps that people can do in their everyday lives in the short term to start moving in that direction.
Well, because the early stages and days of sobriety can be tough. I mean, and even if it's not necessarily oh, I want to drink so bad, it's just uncomfortable because for me, I was experiencing everything new, sober.
First time.
Yeah. First time going to a Braves game, first time going to a concert, first time going to my friend's house, just all these things that I'd never experienced before. So it was just highly uncomfortable. So I think that's really great that you provide these tangible tools, and I'm assuming accountability. So it's the next time we're going to follow up and see how this went. And all that, I think, was just really helpful.
And it helps people, like you said, we're going to follow up next time. We look at the blind spots. If you did drink, if you did stumble, that's okay. It is part of a lot of people's stories, not everybody's, but let's see what happened. Where were the blind spots? Where did we miss? And usually we'll find key themes and things like that, and sometimes it's not even oh, well, I forgot this or I didn't say that. It can be something like guilt and shame or embarrassment that leads people to, drink again or whatnot.
Yeah. Which is crazy because, I mean, that was me too. It's like I have all this guilt and shame for drinking and acting like a crazy person, but I can't handle it sober. So I need to drink so I can't feel that again.
Right. Yep.
And it's just like this vicious cycle. And that was just one of the reasons why I drank, right? Like sometimes it was just Tuesday. Sometimes it was raining.
And we were just bored, right? We had to celebrate.
Yes.
I mean, all of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then the families, you talked about the families.
Yeah.
This is something that we at Impact a few years ago realized, like, this is a huge piece of it. And so we created an impactful family program where we take the families through the work and they can get their own healing. And our book talks about it's a family disease, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, your family coaching that you do and also just kind of feedback you get from family members maybe that are coming in.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot are not thinking that they need to do any work necessarily, and just your experience with that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times when families first send their loved ones off, there's this big exhale of, yes, the problem's like off our hands for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, I think a lot of times families assume when they come back, everything will be great. But I think what families don't understand or loved ones don't understand is they have been functioning from such fight or flight around their loved one, hypervigilance, right? That their systems need to actually process some of that, talk through it to alleviate some of that stress. And then also, again, tangibly, right? Looking at how structures are set up around this one person. I mean, I will have partners that have gone above and beyond to hide their partner's use. And they're used to it, so they think it's normal.
Yes.
Right. And so now we're going, okay, well, you're not going to be focusing on them so much. It's time to focus on yourself. And that's really uncomfortable when they're like, wait, what? I'm going to focus on me? Yeah, well, why do you show up this way? How do you, overdo for your loved one? And a lot of times it was like, well, that's what I do. That's what was mirrored for me or I was taught. Or why do you put up with certain disrespect, right? And so it's like, they've got work to do as well, but we set it up as like, let's prepare you to also welcome them back home because you're almost learning each other for the first time again.
Yeah.
Because both parties will change. And so I always tell families it's important that you have support too and a place to go. And, family groups are nice. Sometimes not everybody likes to go into family group settings. And I totally understand that, right? Again, I don't think every meeting is the same.
Right.
And so they're like, well, we don't put into that or that's not ours. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. Because I do think some of this work can be individual.
Yes. Yeah. And that was a lot of feedback we got from families because we would send them out into their communities and be like, hey, go find a meeting for yourself. And they're like, it's so depressing. It's so sad. I don't want to go back. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll just create our own group with,
And I love that. I mean, I've heard great things about it. And I know families feel so supported with that. And it's also for so my work is with families that need that additional support.
Yes.
Right? That it's like, yes, they have that group setting, but then they also need somebody to help them that are in the thick of it with them and working through it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, like, especially on an individual level, it can be so helpful because a lot of these family members have never talked about any of this. And there's so much guilt and shame with them about their loved one, or maybe things they did to try to cover it up or, protect them. And they just need somebody to talk to and have no judgment. And I love how you mentioned, like, someone will tell you something, you're like, okay, moving on, not phased. And that's what we need as addicts and alcoholics and as loved ones of addicts and alcoholics, because there is so much shame and guilt around everything. And it's just like a total mess. And I say this all the time too, is just, we never got a class on how to handle someone with addiction.
Right.
And so we need all the guidance we can get. And it's very overwhelming. And the last thing we want is to feel some sort of way if we're like sharing or being vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think like to that point of when, their loved one comes home, they have all these like new ways of life and being one day at a time, or this is my boundary. It's my recovery. I don't have to talk about it. and these very just black and white things. And it throws the person off at home. They're like, wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it's helping families create conversation and getting curious about, okay, what does this mean? Because your recovery is my business.
Yeah.
We live in the same house.
Right.
Like, and I think that, but that's from my perspective and what I teach. Like, it's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're not responsible for their recovery, but I think there is some level of, honesty, right? And transparency.
Yeah.
That is necessary.
Yes.
Absolutely. Like when I work with young adults and parents who are trying to like launch their children while they're early in recovery, transparency, the kids are like, well, I should have my own bank account and do what I want. And I said, yeah, that comes with time. You got to build trust.
Yeah.
Transparency is very important at the beginning, I feel, if you're going to grow together.
Yeah, definitely. And being like, as the person that experienced alcoholism, and then, I'm sober one day, and I remember my mom, I was talking on the phone with her, and I was excited and happy. And she's like, Sarah, have you been drinking? And I was like, oh, the audacity.
Yeah,
this woman. Yeah. It's like, this is the one day I'm sober. And so like for me in my personal recovery, it's like anyone can be how they want to be. My mom is that's actually like pretty correct. Like you're allowed to ask that if you are worried, because I've only shown up that way 1,000 times.
Right.
And for like for me to just have patience with my family and talking about like that, bringing that trust back or getting that trust back, it does take time. And even for me in early recovery, I remember my mom wanting me to see this therapist. And I was like, I don't need to see a therapist. I don't have anything I need to talk about. I have my sponsor. I get everything out from her. And I'd gone to this like trauma therapist for something else. And I was like, I don't need this girl.
Yeah.
And she called me like a week later and was like, did you make an appointment with her? And I said no. And I could tell how disappointed she was. And so I went, and she was fine, but I went for my mom to show her that I was showing up differently.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if family members ask you, like, how do you know if they're changing? Like, how will I know? Mm-hmm. And what do you?
They do, because a lot of times they don't share, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to share because they don't think they need to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. And so they might be doing the things, or they may not be.
Yeah.
And how do you know? I say ask questions. Again, it's that dialogue. Observe. And also if you, like your mom in that situation, where are you drinking? Like, I tell family members, pause. Like, what made you think that they are? Mm-hmm. Was it their tone? Was it how they were talking? Was it, right, how rapid they were speaking?
Yeah.
What's coming up for you that's being triggered that's making you question them?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can be just the person's past experience coming up, and sometimes they're on point. Yeah. And they're seeing it.
For sure.
You're the person staring at them going, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, not me.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I know. And so I will never, it's working through it. Is it intuition or is it fear?
Yes.
That's what it comes down to, especially when it's parents and spouses.
Yes, for sure.
And sitting with them and discerning which one it is.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned like family members being triggered emotionally by their loved one or whatever. What about this idea of triggers around drinking? I know from my own personal experience, the first time I went to detox, they're like, write out your triggers. And I was like, my mom, my family talking about my drinking, and it's like, okay, so my mom and my family's not supposed to be concerned. And so can you speak to that a little bit around like, if someone's blaming their family, like, this is why I drink, or it's the job, or this or that?
Yeah. So we'll take it back to like 12th step, 4th step. What's your part?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what I take it back as. I mean, the whole world's going to be a trigger. So are we just going to like live somewhere in a box?
Yeah.
No, we can't. That means we've got work to do. We've got things to process. We've got ways to cope. What about mom is triggering you? What about it?
Right.
What are you not saying that you need to say to your mom? And now for a little bit, it might be, there needs to be some space, right? While you're trying to figure that out, you're doing your own healing. I understand that like family members can say certain things or do certain behaviors that create a big emotional response in you.
Yeah.
Right. And that big emotional response takes you back to the original time the damage happened.
Yeah.
I won't downplay that. And that's painful. But we also can't erase everything and every person out of our lives. So we have to stay in the arena with that feeling. And I feel uncomfortable.
Yes. And to be uncomfortable and not drink.
Correct.
Because that's all I knew.
Exactly.
That was the solution.
That was a solution. Yeah. So what's the new solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, 12 steps, you got call a sponsor. Go do service work. Get out of yourself. You're too in your head. Yeah. I always tell people, go call somebody, ask them about themselves, and don't talk about yourself. Literally, right? Go see where you can just be of service. Mm-hmm. Go take care of your own health. Go for a walk. Go exercise. What part of recovery or yourself can you work on that gets you out of sitting in that feeling of overwhelm or sadness or anger or whatever trigger emotion occurred until you can work it through in a safe environment or with this person?
Yeah. And that's what I always say, why I love the 12 steps so much is because there's always an action to take.
Yeah.
Like I'm never just chilling. Like there's always some sort of direction I can go in to then be directed for my next step. Yeah. And that's why I love the 12 steps so much because I'm never just really sitting. Like there's all, like you said, like call somebody, pray, call your sponsor, do this. Like there's so many things you can do to get out of yourself and get out of that emotion because our emotions are only temporary. You know, I could be so upset and then someone calls and they're like, hey, you just won the lottery for $1 billion. I'm sure my emotions will change a little bit.
Exactly. You know? Yes. Yes, it's really getting out of that, that pour me, another drink. I mean, it's getting out of that mentality of pour me.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot with clients, the self-pity, isolation? Do you see that maybe helps fuel their addiction a little bit?
I think it does because they want to numb the feeling. Yeah. But if we peel back that layer, of the self-pity or that, I think it's more so that they are not content with themselves. Right? Yeah. The self-pity is actually, I'm not showing up like I want to show up, or I'm not showing up how I know I should show up or how I can show up. I'm unaligned a lot of times.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I didn't know any of this language existed. So it's just so amazing how there can be a complete psychic change, as our book talks about, because I didn't know there were all these layers and different perspectives, and I was just mad or sad.
I was just pissed.
Yeah. And then now it's you're talking about, it's self-pity. Okay, let's take it a step further. You're not content with yourself. Okay, what does that look like? And it's just kind of peeling back the layers of the onion to really get down to internally what's going on versus, okay, it's not the alcohol. It's not the alcohol at all. Like you said at the beginning, it's me.
Yeah.
And so do you see, I guess as far as the success of your clients, what can you tell if somebody, like we talked about earlier, this gift of desperation, if somebody's all in, or what, maybe for families, how do we know if my son's going to be successful, or what can I look for?
It's, how do you define success, right? And so, like I said, I meet people where they are and they have different goals. I've had one client where she wanted to change her relationship with alcohol. Mm-hmm. She was like, I don't know if I can do complete abstinence. I don't know if I need to and if I'm going to. I put my own recovery, the way I do it, aside. It's not about me. It's about the person in front of me. I make that clear, right? Because a lot of times people come in, they're like, oh my God, 18 years, do I have to do it your way? And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm here to do.
Is that hard for you to separate those two?
No, because her goals were different, right? Yeah. So for her, she needed to change her relationship with alcohol. She drank. When she drank, there's a bunch of shame and guilt. Mm-hmm. We did some, some therapeutic work on it, on where that rooted from and where it came from, and the shame and guilt. And what came of it, at the end of it, it was beautiful. She shared it. She was like, I always used to be automatically opted in when it came to hanging out with my friends or my work events. I was opted in to drink. Working with you, what we were able to do is flip the script. Now I'm always opted out, and I get to decide when I opt in. Yeah. So just the fact that it can always be everybody's like, oh yeah, we're all going to have wine, but she's going to have water. But then now she's to go, oh no, today I'm drinking.
Yeah.
She's opting in. She's making an active, intentional decision that she is going to drink, knowing what may or may not happen on the back end.
Yeah.
All the power, right? And then I've had clients where, no, it's I've got to stop. I'm done.
They've always opted in, even when they said they're opting out.
Whereas now it's like we're opting out all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And working with them through that. And even when they relapse of like, okay, how do we bounce back? It's not sitting in the relapse. It's going again, doing a behavior chain. Where did we fall short? And then how do we get back on and keep going forward?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, my personal experience, I relapsed and my life wouldn't be where it is today if I didn't do that.
Right.
In the moment, it was awful. I was so upset and all these things, but it sprung a willingness in me that I'd never had before. And it just further showed that I can't drink and this isn't going to work. And there is only one solution for me. And so relapse, I think, can be discouraging and at the same time be like a game changer.
It's what's needed, right?
Yeah.
So like when you say like, well, how do people know that they're like successful or achieving their goals? Well, if sobriety is the goal, then like, right, it's pretty black and white. For families though, what I say is like, if there is a relapse, it doesn't mean it's like all done. Like everything's not down the tank. Like there were lots of lessons in front of this relapse, right? There was lots of things that happened. The relapse is also a lesson, like you said, like you needed it to then go, oh, wait, I really can't do this. Like I'm done. And so instead of going into crisis mode, right, let's go into curiosity mode. Let's slow it down, what happened, and get back on the horse.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, families go into panic mode. Oh my God, do they need to go back to treatment? Do they need to go detox?
Yeah.
It's like, no, let's slow this down.
Yeah.
First.
Right.
And see really how long was the relapse? Was it one time? Was it, continuous for how long? I think there's just so many different things that we need to look at before just running to the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like some people do need to go back to treatment. Some people don't. Like for me, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And so I just jumped right back into the work.
And for family members, do you also, like we always tell the alcoholic addict, do you have another relapse? And you hear that a lot of times in the rooms, I don't have another relapse in me. But for the family members also, do you have another relapse left in you?
Yeah.
I think they need to ask themselves that because they may say, no, I don't. And then, that might be a dynamic shift that then has to be explored. And that's okay too. Mm-hmm. But I think also everybody needs to look at what can I contain? What can I withstand anymore?
Yeah.
Individually.
And that makes me think of when family members, I used to not understand this, but maybe you can speak to this a little bit. When family members or loved ones get their own help, how it can actually help the addict or alcoholic.
Absolutely, because they're not enabling, right? You got it. They're not enabling anymore. When you can say, I can stand on my 2 feet and I'm working on whether it's Al-Anon or whatever, right? And I love you and I care for you and we're going to have this life, but I'm not responsible for these things that once that person used to put on them and they used to take on. There you go. Yeah. I think it untangles all of that. That emotional entanglement that's unhealthy is what happens. It gets untied. Still very close. And there's a healthy bond, right? Versus enmeshment. Yeah.
And that's why there's people like you to walk them through that on how to do that. Because again, nobody got a class in school about that.
No, any of this. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's all to everybody's different circumstances, right? Like, and also depends on cultural backgrounds and where you come from and how your family dynamics are, right? It's also different. I know boundaries is such a word that gets thrown up, but there are a lot of cultures that don't like that. The word boundary means abandonment, you know? Wow. Yes. And so it's like you have to be careful. I think sometimes we'll use some of these words and clarifying like that doesn't mean abandoning just because you're putting up a boundary.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. And there's sensitivities around that I think get overlooked sometimes that also keep people from getting the help they need.
Yeah. Well, and I like how you put like, do you have another relapse, a new family member?
Yeah.
Because we think about the addict or alcoholic, but it's like, and that just shows like if somebody's like, no, I don't. And here's how I'm going to show up differently. That makes like me as an alcoholic, I'm like, oh no, they're not there. What am I going to do? And then therefore that can shift me to
control.
Yeah.
Like it catapults your recovery. Like you've got to put your own shoes on. tie the laces and do the walk.
Right.
Because guess what? That loved one isn't going to go put on your shoes for you and tie the laces and then go, okay, come on, let's do this together. No.
Yeah.
I think early recovery is a journey that you must take on yourself. Yes, you do it among a bunch of peers and there's a lot of support and community, but you yourself have to show up day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
No one can show up for you.
Yeah. And you mentioned with your personal experience, you got into recovery and then you started doing the hard work, like the therapy and everything. Can you speak to a little bit about maybe the difference of, the recovery world versus therapy and how they go great together?
Yeah.
And what maybe your experience and then what you do with your clients too.
Yeah. So on the therapy side, I'm trained in DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy. I also offer hypnotherapy, as well as brain spotting, and then more energetic work like Reiki as well. So really my take is like science mixed with intuition.
Yeah.
As the way I like to practice. And I would say the difference between coaching and the therapy goes a lot more into the emotional depth. If there's trauma there, if there are things of that nature that need to deal with mental health disorders, right? And things of that nature. Whereas the coaching is more tangible, more like, here's kind of the guidelines, here's what we're doing, less processing, more step-by-step guidance, tools and skills. Mm-hmm. The other one's more in depth. And yes, they mesh together. Everybody's like, well, how do you keep them separate? To be honest, it's hard to, but because I think they both do go hand in hand. Yeah, really, they do. So a lot of times, sometimes I can toggle between the two, but I usually know when. And if it's, a sober client that has their own therapist, like I'm not doing the therapist work. I'm very clear on that.
Yeah.
That what we're doing is just focusing on your recovery, creating the framework you need to stay sober.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, that's important. And it's like if it meshes a little, they are getting the best of both worlds.
Yes. But you also don't want somebody with two therapists. Yes, because that can be too many pots in it, like, too many heads in the pot, and you don't want that creates confusion.
Yeah.
Creates math. And some people want that. And I'm like, no, like, you have your therapist for that. Well, but I really think that I would like you to do that. And I was like, well, then you've got to break up with them. Right. And like, you can be my therapy client, but we can't have two therapists. Because I think also too many opinions and it just causes too much confusion. It's like, let's pick a path, try it. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work, then you can pivot.
Yes.
There's always an option.
Yeah. And so with, your full practice, do you typically see more people in early sobriety or long-term or all the above?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. So I'll see people early on, and then I will actually see people that are actually later on, but going through life transitions. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite things to do. So it actually is not having to do with sobriety or recovery, but it's life transitions, whether it's going from, work life to just being a mom going back into the workforce, pivotal moments, I think, in just people's lives where they're realizing that there's something either missing and they thought they had it all, right? But everything just doesn't feel right, mm-hmm. and something is missing, or they need a big shift and a life overhaul. And I'll help people like that as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's fun work. I love what I do.
Yes. Well, I think that was great. Is there anything else you want to add or any closing remarks you want to mention if someone is struggling?
Yeah. If somebody is struggling, obviously take it one day at a time, right? And I will say that I know and I always actually kind of add this on to a lot of my podcasts now. If you're on social media, like there's so many different trends out there and things out there. Make sure if you're going to spend your time doom scrolling, you're following quality, sober recovery pages, groups, and people. There are lots of resources out there and there's great information. Yeah. Just make sure that, who you're following is living the life you want.
Yeah.
Right? Big time. And there's credibility. Because like you said, the word sobriety coaching gets thrown around so much, and it's hard to know when it's a credible source.
Yes.
So do homework and ask people. You can always send messages. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource. You don't have to be a client. I just love helping people get where they need to go, even if they're not landing in my private practice. So yeah. And then lastly, I just want to thank you. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for having me. It has been so much fun and such a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning into another episode. I hope today's conversation has inspired you, opened your mind, maybe even your heart a little bit. But remember, you're not alone. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We will have all the information below so you can find Nisha and her website and how to get in contact with her. But until next time, keep making an impact. Bye, y'all.